Okay, this is not the best start to a video. I was delayed because there's a mini snowstorm going on in Milwaukee today, and I almost got to the airport too late. Anyway, needless to say, I've made it, and now we're sitting here anyway because the plane still needs to be de-iced, which, as you can see, it's very much not de-iced yet. But all of this is fine because I'm traveling for divine reasons to answer one question that in all of my studies of philosophy I came across and still cannot answer. It just might be the most difficult philosophical question ever conceived. I'm just kidding. I'm flying to New York to visit my friend, but I will ask as many of you as I come across to give me the answer to the surprisingly simple but seemingly impossible to answer question. Let's see what happens. It was windy too. Okay, I'm being pretty sneaky about this. I made a YouTube community post posting about a meetup with only 24 hours notice. And I thought that would be a good way to keep the group small. And also that would be a great way to get to ask this question that's been on my mind to multiple subscribers at once. And only a couple hours into the request and to the meetup post, I got an email from one of my subscribers who apparently is a research scientist at Google. And not only did he want to join the meetup, but he offered to give me a tour of his little workplace. And so I'm here. There you go. All right, we just had our first ever meetup in person here in New York City, and we're in Little Island, as you can tell from the beautiful view. And I have to confess, I've had a bit of a secret agenda on my mind, which is part of the reason for the meetup. Of course, the meetup was great. It was the most beautiful human connection thing ever. But one question that I am starting to identify as being perhaps one of the most, if not the most difficult questions to answer, that's been growing on my mind, that I myself cannot answer. Asking others, obviously, what they might think about it, if they have any insight, if they have maybe even an answer, who knows. Failure totally being an option. Maybe it's actually the right thing that we can't find an answer to it, whatever it might be. Well, we talked today a lot about anger, frustration, resentment, hatred, also happiness, joy, all the feelings, all the thoughts, the identities that we have. All day, every single person on earth goes around thinking whatever happens to them, they look at it and they say, is this bad for me? Is this good for me? Is this useful? Is this harmful? Is this a good thing? Is this something that I want to strive for or avert? Whatever it may be. And even though we ask ourselves this like 24/7 and build our entire lives around it and goals, careers, whatever, everything, identities around it, I wonder, who is it that pursues these things? Who is the one for whom things are good or bad or anything else? Who is it who asks when something happens to them, is this good for me? Is this bad for me? What am I going to do with it? What should I do with it? Who is that?
I don't know how to answer that. Who is that?
Who's the self?
That's beyond me. I don't know who the self is.
Beyond whom?
Myself, my goals, my dreams, my what I believe is my purpose in life, the direction I'm going, the things that I'm doing on a daily basis, every year.
But
And
who is the one doing things on a daily basis?
me?
Who is that?
Who is that?
Your identity, but
Whose identity?
where does that come from?
I think it's like an amalgamation of all of our experiences and how we either dealt with those experiences at the time, and if we didn't process them at the time or didn't understand it, it comes out later in different ways, unexpectedly.
Well, who does it come out of?
Myself,
Who is that?
I don't know.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. I mean, your physical body is there, but you're not necessarily your physical body.
Right.
I guess the spiritual versus, physical scientific idea here. What runs us? Yeah, and I mean with everything, just waking up, just our physical being, our eating, our sleeping, our running, our walking. Who controls it? Do we believe that it's a God? Is it God who controls it? Is it a God?
But even if we knew who it was, which I don't think we're ever going to know, who runs it, who controls it, who is the one being controlled?
Right.
The question insists on itself, right? It insists, like, we can only seem to delay it by saying all these things that I too say, the inner self, the real self. Who is that, right?
Sure.
Isn't it amazing though that we go around, and we all do this, every day 24/7, thinking about whatever happens to us, like you just said, thoughts happen to us subconsciously. Is this a good thing? Is this good for me? Is this bad for me? Is this useful to me? Is this harmful to me? Is this something that I should pursue? Is this something that I should avoid? Who is that? Who is it who should pursue things and who should avoid things? Who should have certain goals or not have those certain? Who is that?
To an extent, I think it's how we're raised and conditioned that make us want things, make us strive for things, and then I think once you get there or don't get there, you start questioning whether that's what you really wanted. To an extent, it makes me feel a little disconnected, but at the same time present, because I know it's me, but I know who is me,
But it seems almost in a way insane to think about so much of the things, if they're good for us, bad for us, whatever they are, this or that, without even being able to answer the question who that even is. Who is it good for? Who is it bad for? It runs our entire lives, those questions, right? What should I pursue over what? What should I value more than something else? We keep saying I, me, without even being able to say, and again, this is everyone, without being able to say who that even is. And of course, it's the scariest thing to not know who you are. So we could sit there and just be totally afraid, but it's also in many ways the most freeing thing we could ever ask ourselves, or be comfortable with not being able to answer. Because it's sort of the ego or the identities, whatever word you want to use, who wants to know everything, be capable of everything,
Right.
be right about everything, be superior to others.
Right. Be seen in a certain light.
And that light is totally, we call it, again, good or bad, depending on how it relates to us. How does this relate to me? But who is that me?
I could try to answer the question again, though.
Yeah.
The way I think of myself is I think of someone who's just a person, just a living being that was born, maybe with a spirit, and just trying to make sense of everything. You're born, you have the physical world, you have people around you, you have a society, you have systems in place. You have to make sense of it somehow and navigate and search for truth and search for meaning somehow through the journey of all those experiences and relationships.
But isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
How that gave you perspective when you just said you just stripped everything away. You were talking about goals and things before, and you just stripped everything away. You said, "I am the being that thinks," right? Not necessarily the one who is those things or certain things or their goals, but the one who picks the goals, the one who's aware of it, the one who lives this life. The simple awareness, right? Not all the identities, all the things around it. I think it's in the Bible. I am who I am. I think God says that I am who I am. And it's sort of like that. Just to realize it, to be unburdened by all the other things that seem to be attached to that I, which are not actually attached.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is collective consciousness filtered through your experience?
Perhaps. I like to, if I might ever approach an answer, I might think of it like you just did. I am the one who sees these things. I am the awareness. I am the attention. Because when we talk to someone like we are now, and they're not paying attention to the conversation, we essentially think, oh, they're not really here, right? So their body might as well not be here either because they're not here. As soon as our attention is gone, we are gone. As soon as someone's awareness is gone, they are gone. So I tend to approach it by thinking about it maybe as us, the I, whatever we call the I, as just the awareness. And there's awareness everywhere. Other people have the same awareness. Animals have an awareness. Everything that lives has an awareness. And we're just sort of different instances of that large awareness, right? We could maybe approach it that way. But how beautiful is the question itself, how it puts everything in perspective. When we say my career, my goals, my relationships, my problems, my goals, my dreams, whose goals, whose dreams, right? It's an important question to ask because we run our entire lives by those questions. What should my career be? What should my goals be? What should my life look like? I, me, all the time, right? When we're not even able to say, when asked, who that I is, who that me even is, let alone have a weekly schedule, monthly goals, yearly dreams. Who is that even? And if it is just that awareness, to realize there are no obligations, there are no such requirements that I need to make this much money, that I need to work this kind of job, that I need to be perceived as this kind of person, or be wealthy, or be free, or who is this? Who is this person who has all these obligations, all these requirements, all this trauma, all these illusions and dreams and goals and fears and hates? Who is that even, right? To just keep asking that question without even answering it or finding an answer perhaps seems like the best thing to do for ourselves, doesn't it?
It's like you go through so much and then you're like, did I really want that?
Yeah. Who was the one who thought who wanted it, and who was the one who now thinks that they might never have wanted that?
Exactly. It's like, or if, the inverse, if you really want something and it didn't work out, and then you look at it and it's like, why did I want it so bad? You just get like, hindsight. It's like, that probably wasn't the best thing for me. It's probably good that it didn't work out.
It's also a bit of a measure of, I think, where we are spiritually, because I think most people, if you went up to them and said, who are you? They would say, okay, whatever their name is. I'd say, I'm Tom. And they would say, I'm an engineer. I'm so-and-so old. I come from here. And I said, none of that is you. That's your name. That's your job. That's your age. That's where you happen to have been born, totally out of your control.
Right.
So you're none of those things. So who are you then?
Right.
They would get offended. They would get angry with whoever's asking that, whoever's pointing that out. And that's again the ego who's getting angry, because the ego doesn't want to not know who it is. wants to be well defined, and it wants to come out well, looking well out of that question. So to be able to say, I don't know, to be able to sit with that question, even if it's a bit scary, to be able to accept the answer that you don't know, that you might never know, even just a possibility that you might never know, and to become okay with that,
Right.
and even to go on to find meaning with that, and to see that, so it's not because I'm required to do these things, but because I get to. Because if I'm not required to do something and I do it anyway, it must be because I want to do it, and it's because I get to do it. So it turns out all our obligations, perhaps, are actually privileges. And if we don't want that particular privilege, why do we keep exercising it? I mean, everything that used to be a means to some end is now the end itself. I don't go to work now to make money, but I go to work because I want to go to that work. I want to do that thing. And if it's something that I don't want to do, then maybe I should change that.
Right.
You know, I think it's the scariest thing you can do for yourself, but it's also the most freeing.
Right.
So at the end, it's the best thing you can do for yourself, to ask this question. And if you're offended, to lose the offense, step by step, wherever people are, everyone's in a different spot, right? It might be scary too. There's nothing wrong with that question being a little scary, saying, well, truly, if I'm not these things that I thought, that I think about every day, if they're good for me, bad for me, who am I then? That can be the scariest thing ever. But it's also the most freeing thing ever. There's no way around this question. But if you go through this question, in my opinion, that's the effect it's having on me, you're actually doing the most freeing you can do of yourself. Unburdening of all these things that are not actually you, that you've been thinking that was you. The real you doesn't need any of that. The real you doesn't need the affirmation of others. It doesn't need to have a certain position in society. It doesn't need to be remembered in a certain way. It doesn't need to be admired. It's above all of that. It doesn't need to have a trauma. It doesn't need to have a narrative of who kept them down, who is keeping them down, who's against them, who's for them. All this talk of enemies, if you're not on my side, you're on them. All these things. Who is the one saying these things? Is it really me? If we are just this awareness that pervades the whole universe, everything that's alive, it seems like it's ridiculous that such a big thing, such an awareness, such beauty that pervades everything would even care about these things. So clearly it's not us who cares about these things. It's these little weird identities, this stupid little ego that runs our life by associating ourselves, this great thing that we are an instance of. You can call it God, you can call it the universe, you can call it the all, whatever you call it, right? We are instances of that. And the instance of what we are does not care about any of that stuff. We drive ourselves crazy every day thinking about these things when we can't even say for whom this is for. Right?
Freeing in a way.
Oh, of course. And it's going to get only more freeing. I think the scariest part is the first part, when you first ask yourself this. Because you're so unprepared. Everyone's. And it's scary. It's scary to not know who you are. I mean, what's scarier than not knowing who you are? But at the same time, you can get to know yourself by knowing what you are not.
Mm-hmm.
Just take the things away, and whatever remains is you. And you don't even need to know what that is, so long as you can know what you are not. That obligation you're trying to put on me, the world, the person, whatever, that's not me, and I don't have to do that. And if I want to do that, I'll do it because I get to do it. It's my human privilege to do these things in the world, or to abstain from them. It's just a little perspective shift.